guys, welcome to our channel for Educated Minds. I am super excited today. I have a really special person that is near and dear to my heart in on this interview today, and I have been getting y'all requests. I have been seeing y'all comments and seeing y'all DMs. Today, we are going to be talking about what are the things that you need to transition from being a family-based childcare provider to maybe you're interested in shopping for a building and transitioning into a center, okay? So if that is what you need, this is going to be the video for you. And make sure you stay all the way to the end and share your comments because she is going to be dropping all the knowledge, all the gems and information in our live interview here today. All right, guys, so none other, I want to make sure that we jump right into the information and jump right into this conversation in our interview for today. And today we are going to be talking about how to prepare to make that transition from a family-based childcare program into a center-based childcare program. And I have a nobody other than the guru herself, who has taught me everything that I know on how to start, grow, organize, operate a successful, and not just a successful, guys, a profitable childcare empire, okay? So I'm not gonna take up too much time. Her name is Yolanda Hill. If you guys do not know and do not see the resemblance, this is my mother, and she started the family-based childcare program when I was 3 years old, and your girl is now 32. So she has a whole lot of knowledge, experience, all the hats that she wears, from being a wife, a mother, an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, and everything else that there is when it comes to women in business. So welcome, Mom. Welcome, Yolanda. I am so excited to have you here. Can you please share a little bit about yourself and just kind of what it is that you're doing now that you're kind of wearing that CEO hat in the childcare business?
Oh, okay. Wow. That's a wonderful introduction. She could have not said anything less. Thanks. All right. My name is Yolanda Hill, and I currently have two children, my daughter that I'm so proud of, and my son. I am married, and yes, I do wear many hats. It has been a struggle, but I'm at a point now, when you sow that seed, it has come to pass.
Ooh, first off, let me stop you right there. She already just write that down. Say that one more time, please.
When you sow that seed, it has come to pass.
Yes.
So that is a good thing. A college graduate, just all the above things in the community, doing things in the community, doing the scholarships, helping young parents, especially mothers, just being that listening ear. And at the end of the day, I'm just Yolanda.
That's right. Yeah. I love that. And I know you mentioned something yesterday that you put out on social media on your page was about legacy. So would you say in this chapter of life now, like all the daycares, all the business, all of that stuff, that your focus is on leaving that legacy and building that legacy?
Yes. It took me a while because sometimes we don't know. I always thought the legacy was about money and leaving money, but legacy is not all about that. It's how people see you and what did you do to help people? What did you do in your community? Was you a listening ear? Was you a helping hand? Did you give back? So those are some of the things that I'm leaving my legacy for. At the end of my journey, I want them to say job well done, because I believe in helping others, and that's most important to me.
Yes. And so this takes me into our space now. We're going to jump right into it because I know that the people are ready. And I know that they want to get this good information that you have to share with us. So let's take it back. I'm going to take it back, at least y'all know we always lose the count. We're at about 24 years now, guys, right? So let's take it back all the way to that space of 1999. You started our family-based childcare program in the basement, okay? So when many people say, oh, I started from the bottom, she is a very clear example of that, okay? So you started this family-based childcare program, caring for 6, 7, 8 children. Share with me a little bit about at what point in time would you say, okay, I think I'm really trying to do this expansion thing. I really think I want to get my center. And how did you know when you were ready for that?
Oh, that's a good question. It wasn't an overnight thing. Sometimes Don make it seem like the question is so simple, but it's not. One of the things I did was I had a vision. And that's the first thing I had to have. I had to have a vision. So I said to myself, and I believe it was maybe 6 or 7 years, I was in my basement. I didn't have a problem with everybody popping up a station here, popping up a this center here. I knew that I was not ready. So mentally, I had to prepare myself. And what I did was I started writing it down. I started having a vision. I said, next year, I'm going to go back to school. The following year, I'm going to get my credit. So it was not an overnight. I started with a vision, and that's led me to where I'm at today. It was steps. And anything that you do, it is steps. And did I take baby steps? Yes, I took baby steps. You know why I took baby steps? Because I knew that I wasn't ready to just go from 6 kids to 48 kids or 50 kids, because sometimes we don't have to go as big. I was small and I went to the medium, but the whole thing, I knew that whatever I would, small, big, large, I wanted to be the best at what I was going to do.
So yes, and I'm glad that you shared that, right? The biggest thing that you touched on, the first thing was my step 1 was my education. My step 2 was, like, what does my credit look like? Am I even fiscally ready I'm making money in my home? Yes, but am I really financially ready to take on another mortgage or another lease? So talk to me about that first step in the education. Why would you say that was like, something that's so big for you? Like, why was that step number 1 for you?
One of the things I did when I started, I started with a mentor, and my mentor helped me tremendously. And then from the mentor, I started getting the counseling. And what I did was, it was so much the family daycare I love, but then I started doing research. Then I started associating myself with daycare centers. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing I knew when I started doing my research and having my mentor, I personally knew I needed to go back to school so I can be my own director, so I can open up the center. And, it was hard, but at the end of the day, I knew I wanted to get the education to be more knowledgeable for my families, but also to get the education so I can open up my own daycare center, own my own building, and be my own boss as my director.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you share that, right? Because in this day and age, and what we see on social media, sometimes the family childcare programs, and I'm just saying it because this is something that's so simple and that we hear so many times, sometimes a family-based childcare provider seems more like below, a center-based program, and you see so many centers popping up and, come here. But one thing that I will take from what I heard you just say is that, yes, while I was in my family daycare, I saw centers opening up. I saw, people starting their centers, but what I heard you say is I didn't jump out there, and just because that was the it thing at that era, right, is, oh, you got a family, now you need a center, right? I knew that was like the it thing, but for you, education was important. So being independent in that space, because like you said, hanging out with other childcare centers, I'm sure you've seen those owners stressed about this director quit, that director quit. And so what was that signal off for you? Like, I want to do something different. Like, why did you focus in on that?
I knew when you made an interesting fact right there, going with and hanging out with other daycare centers, I seen them struggle. I seen them with so many different directors. And yes, I was struggling in school. It was very hard. I still had 7 children. I was hanging out with directors that had 50, 60, and one had 100 children, but I seen them go through so many directors. And I knew I was on the right path because I was getting that degree so I could obtain what I needed to obtain. And no one, I always told you, and I tell my son, no one can take that education. So at the end of the day, I always had a plan B. And my plan B was when that director steps off, because a lot of times I'm not even a director, but at least my plan B was, hey, I can step right in to be the director and the owner. So that's what helped me along the way.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you shared that. That's important. So let's dive a little bit into some of the non-negotiables. I think one of the best things that people, like, okay, I want this, building. One of the big hiccups that stops people is now it's time to build and shop. Like, now I got to really, put my foot out there. I really got to believe in myself. I really got to keep my faith high. And I got a building shop. And that's something that scares people, right? Like that's something that will stop you in your tracks. Yes, you may be in school and you might be one credit away from graduating, or you may have somebody, a sister, a cousin, a brother, a husband that is going to be your director. Like they have the credential, right? So that may be their step that they already got done. But now we in step 2. Right. And now in the step 2 is doing the research. It's building shopping. It's determining your numbers. Talk to me a little bit about what was the building shopping, phase for you, and kind of what were some of your takeaways from that? Because how many buildings do you own?
Okay. Miss Dominique, and I'm calling her Miss Dominique because I'm so used to, so we so used to call her. But she asked you one question and she already asked you 10. So now you got to be clicking, but you're asking good points and good questions. One of the things I knew that at one point I was operating 4 daycare centers, and that was plus the family daycare. And still going to college, still trying to figure out what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, when did I know? The first thing I tell everyone, be knowledgeable. I still had to mentor, had to coach. But you know what that coach told me? To go get a realtor. Stop trying to go and look and do all that. It did not cost me nothing to get a realtor. I told them what my non-negotiables was. I told them what I was looking for. I told them what my price point was. And that's where I went from there. So that the good thing is, yes, everybody telling you to do this, but just go from the beginning. The beginning is like when you're buying a house. Nobody's going for you. You go to that realtor. It does not cost nothing to go to a realtor, and the same like a pre-approval. You get a pre-approval and they start working with you. And my realtor, and I'm going to be all honest with you, my realtor, I must have seen about at least 7, 8, 9 daycare centers before I liked that one. But when I liked that one, remember, it was not a perfect center.
Yes. Could you say that one more time, please?
You're not going to get a perfect center. That is number one. But one of my non-negotiables are...
Yes, please talk about what were some of the non-negotiables that you were talking to your realtor, like it must have this, it cannot have that. Talk to us about that. Walk us through that process.
One of the things had a yard. I'm big on a yard. Even though you can open up a center, never saying you can open up a center, but you have to remember that it's taking some of your square footage. And that you have to do your homework. That was one of my non-negotiables. The other one was that I needed to... the neighborhood. I wanted to see is the parking location.
Did you just say it one more time? Say it one more time.
Location. That was my second non-negotiable. But then the other things that buying a building is different than leasing. Let's touch base just a little. I'm buying a building, so I'm going to go fix that building up. I'm going to get the sprinkler. I'm going to get everything. But renting a building, I leased 2 buildings. I had non-negotiables. I'm not fixing up your building.
Yes.
I'm not doing all this renovation. There's certain things that I personally think, if you have to have the fire sprinkler, you shouldn't have to put $5,000-$10,000 in it, because that's what they want you to do. Guess what? In 3 to 5 years, they're going to negotiate their contract with you. And what they're going to do, go up in the rent. And sometimes they push it up so high because they want to push you out. And they got a whole building fixed up. So I may be jumping a little ahead of the game, but at the end of the day, I don't care. If a building, I'm going to fix it up. I'm going to own it. But leasing a building, it's only so many things that I'm going to do, because all you're doing is making that owner richer.
Oh, and so let's talk about this, because you said I done mentioned a whole lot, but you didn't drop some really great gems and some really good information, guys. So one of the things I just want to highlight that she mentioned is owning a building and leasing a building, right? The investment that it takes to own a building, the investment that it takes to lease a building, right? So I just want to highlight when she says fixing up, yes, in the state, they will say you need play materials, you need it to be safe, you need it to be clean, all of those things. But they didn't tell you that you need to come in and have the latest stainless steel appliances. They didn't tell you that you need to come in and have all the crazy nice drop ceilings, all of the most expensive floors. They didn't say you needed to have that in order to actually open and operate, right? So what Miss Yolanda is saying is that, yes, My buildings that I own, I'm investing. I'm giving nice floors. I'm getting that sprinkler system. I'm taking out those maybe old drop ceilings and I'm putting in high ceilings and new beam lights. I might be really buying the bare paint and not the generic paint. I'm really investing into my building because at the end of the day, it's mine. So if I close my doors today or tomorrow, I could rent it to someone else. I'm not going to take that loss, right? I may put an HVAC system or a brand new heater system or an air conditioner unit in that building.
That is correct.
However, what she mentioned is when she went to lease buildings, at this point in time, this is when I joined into the family business. When she went to lease a building, I'm not about to put a whole brand new air conditioner unit because when the lease is up in 3 years or 5 years, whether I made a profit or didn't make a profit, I can't pull all that stuff out the ceiling. So I want to really zone in on that because even though you said, oh, I may have jumped the gun, no, but that's really great information to share is that do what you need to do to get open, but you don't have to invest all the money into a building that's not necessarily yours unless if your agreement is, sometimes landlords or owners will have a rent to own agreement, after a certain time.
And I hear, and you're right. So we're moving on. And she's interviewing me, but I'm interviewing her also. But that is true because a lot of times you do get in the buildings, and I've known a lot of my friends. They're in the buildings, they've been there 10, 15 years. And every time it's time to negotiate, they go up in the price higher and higher. So that is one of the things that I think when you are leasing, then make sure you have in that contingent in 5 years or 8 years, am I able to have the first shot of owning the building? And those are some of the things that you have in writing. And I say, if you've been in the building 10, 15 years, and I'm going to just be very transparent, 9 out of 10, they are not going to sell you that building. Why should they? Do the math. If you didn't gave them $35,000, $4,000, and it's 4 or 5 years, they didn't already paid their building off. So let's just
got some equity in the mix.
Yeah. And yes, exactly. Yes. Exactly. So I always just try to keep it real. It's leasing or it's buying. And sometimes you're not able to buy at that time. But while you leasing, still keep your head straight because I'm only going to lease a certain amount of years and then I'm going to try to buy my own building, and it's okay to buy.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So I just want to recap, guys. She shared some amazing, great information in this space on how knowing when you're ready, what some of those credentials and those financials looks like. I think one of the biggest things that I just want to wrap up and say, you said to me in the beginning of your interview, you said, I waited, right? So we would call that, in essence, your still season, right? This is the season that you were sitting still. This is the season that you were mastering, like being a business owner, right? Like, remember, you would always say to me, Dominique, just because you own a family daycare, still show up professional.
That's exactly.
Right? Yes. So you were mastering, and you were being still. So in that still season, if you have just one piece of advice that you could give that childcare provider right now that's watching this and she on the fence, she like, nah, I think I got the capital. I think I'm ready to make that transition. Maybe she's been in her daycare for, 7, 8, 9 years in her home. What's one great good piece of advice as we wrap up this that you would give to that aspiring center owner?
One of the things, the best thing I could say is to stay true to yourself. Work on yourself, even though it's like a relationship. Work on yourself. You're a family daycare, and Dominique made an interesting point. I don't care, and I say that up to the day. It doesn't matter. We have one child coming, or we have 21 children. You don't show downstairs with the bonnet on. You don't have Timbs on. You don't sit outside the porch. You don't smoke those cigarettes. Those working on yourself. So now, when you're ready to get that daycare center, you're going to look professional. So
mindset, yes.
Mindset. That is one thing I'm keen on. Be prepared. And while you sitting, and that season will come. Continue to work on yourself, work on your relationships, or who you have working for you. Those things, because we're going to make mistakes. So I'm in that family daycare. I tolerate her to come in every other day. But that is something that when you get into that daycare center, some things is just not tolerating. So just continue to work on yourself. Stay focused. That's what
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining, guys, in here. I'm super glad. Thank you so much, Ms. Shalonda, for having us. You touched on so many topics, guys. I hope the number one takeaway that you guys take away from this is mindset and educating your mind, obviously. So whether it is you, we obviously offer our Childcare Startup University course for anybody that's looking to start a childcare-based program, but really educate your mind, invest into yourself. And one of the biggest things I could never forget that you've always said, if you have a family daycare and you want to own a daycare center, you should be hanging around who, Ms. Shalonda?
Daycare center owners.
Yes. Okay. So make sure that you're putting yourself in the room. You're getting yourself in the room so you can begin to show up as a center owner already. So you're not scared to enforce those policies with your parents and your employees and things of that nature, guys. So if you like this video and more where they came from, make sure you leave us some comments and let us know, and make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. I'm super excited. And the next 45 days, we are going to be launching our very own CEO Club. Okay. So I'm super excited. You're going to be getting 2 coaches for the price of 1 as we launch our monthly membership and our CEO Club and Educated Mind. So stay tuned and make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for having me. Bye.